So I replaced the stock pickups with a Dimarzio Super Distortion in the bridge and a Dimarzio DLX Plus in the neck. For the locking tuners, I went with the Harley Benton ones. They're very cheap, but so far they worked flawlessly. I started by removing all the hardware on the headstock. For that you'll need a screwdriver or an electric screwdriver. Unlike most tuners, these are not fastened with a bolt. You can just push them through the hole and they come loose right away. And all that's left are like these inserts that have ribbons on them, which keep them in place in the wooden holes. And they do need a little bit of force to get them out. And because of this, the holes are too small for the replacement tuners. The holes are just too small to get the pegs through. And that's why you will have to widen the holes with a drill. I did this in multiple steps to minimize the damage on the wood or the paint on the headstock. I'm using multiple sizes of drills, and I'm also not drilling all the way through, because I use a step drill here to slowly make the hole in the paint wide enough for the drill to go through, so again to minimize chip out on the paint. As you can see, the holes to fasten the tuners with a screw do not line up with the previous ones. You could fill up these holes with like glue and a toothpick if you want. Put the nuts in place on the other side of the headstock and tighten them hand tight. And I use the metal ruler to make sure all the tuning pegs are straight. Here I'm pre-drilling the holes. That's always a good idea when you screw something into wood. And as you can see, the previous holes are still visible, but it's not much of a deal, in my opinion. And screwing them all securely in place. And finally, tighten the nuts a little bit more. I used a slightly smaller string gauge than it came stock. I used a 7-string set where I lose the second string to achieve a drop A tuning, but therefore the neck was a little bit bowed, so I adjusted the truss rod and everything was fine after that. Then for the replacement pickups, I of course removed all the stock hardware. I ended up not using the stock springs for the height adjustment of the pickup, more on that later. Then it's time for some soldering. I didn't do any coil splitting or tapping, I just wired them like normal humbuckers. Unfortunately, this is not a soldering tutorial, but Dimarzio has very detailed schematics on their website that you can use. For the height adjustment, I just used some foam that I cut up. I did not use the springs because here the screws are much more on the side than the middle with like normal P90s, and that would interfere with the placement of the spring. I later decided to countersink the screws a little bit so they don't stand as proud as much with the pickup. And on a final note, I also filed away a little bit of the pick guard because the pickup was a little bit too big, and sometimes that interfered with height adjustments because it would scrape on the pick guard.